And hello, we are live. Welcome to the Transformational Life. My name is James, and today we are here to talk about transformation and the shift in consciousness going on around the planet, the shift in energies, and what does it mean? What does it think about? This is something I've been contemplating about. I've been talking about it a lot. How do we navigate this shift in consciousness, and how do we create a better life for ourselves? We are coming to you live from StreamYard today. So thank you for joining us on the show. And there we go. Oh. There we go. There we go. We'll get everything going right now, I think. Got webcam number 2 going. And thank you for joining us today. Got a couple of people in the chat. Say hello if you're here in the chat and let me know that you're here. If you have any questions as we go through, we will get to them once I get done chatting for a few minutes. And what we're going to be talking about is understanding the shift in consciousness that's going on. Understanding what does it mean to have a shift in consciousness? What does it mean that this great awakening, and what does all that stuff mean? And what does it mean for the planet? What does it mean for our culture? But what does it mean specifically for us as individuals, and how we are going to live life going forward? What's happening is been coming for many, many years. It's called the Age of Aquarius began. And in this Age of Aquarius that began last year, it started a shift, and it really started even before January of last year. It's something that's been coming for many years. It's been in the works for many years. I started hearing about this transformation in 95. When I started studying spirituality, there were people already talking about it. It was something that was already coming. We didn't know exactly when it was coming at that point. There were different people giving it different timelines, but it's been something that I've been hearing talked about ever since I started my spiritual journey back in 1994. And there's been a lot of discussion about what it means. One of the things that books that I read when we were going through it was called Darkest Before the Dawn. And that really kind of helped shape my view of a lot of things, because one of the things that a lot of people are scared right now, they see the shortages, they see the lack, they see all the turmoil and conflict going on. And one of the things is that there's this old saying it's always darkest right before the dawn. And that's what we're going through right now. We're in the darkness right before the dawn right now. Okay. So there's all this turmoil going on, and a lot of people think it's going to last forever, but the darkness doesn't last forever, just like the light doesn't last forever. You look at, the natural world and the spiritual world. The natural world we have in the Hermetic laws, which is one of the things that we talk about. There is the law of correspondence, which says as above, so below. And as above, so below means in the world of spirit, in the world of this physical world is a reflection of the world of spirit. So as things work in the physical world, we can correspond how things work in the spiritual world. And so in the physical world, we have day and we have night, and we have day and we have night, and the world goes through this cycle. Yeah, it's the calm before the storm. No, it's not the calm before the storm. It's the darkness before the dawn. You're reversing the energy flow. We've been in the storm. The storm has been going on for a long time. We're coming to the end of the storm. This new consciousness is coming in is going to be a higher vibrational energy in the consciousness of the planet. And we are raising and lifting the consciousness of the planet. But we are going through growing stages growing pains right now as a planet. People are waking up to the new consciousness, but not understanding it. When I went through my spiritual awakening, it went through this really long dark night of the soul. And that's kind of what we're at is a lot of the collective is awakening, but now that collective is entering the dark night of the soul, which means they're going through the trauma. They're having to face, the world is having to face the trauma that our culture has caused, the cultural trauma, the systemic racism, the cultural norms that are out of alignment with spirit. And we're bringing things closer into alignment as we heal that trauma. But it takes time. And there's a lot of different opinions that oppose each other. And a lot of people think that their opinion is going to win and that the other side's not even going to exist when this is all done. But that would be us again a violation of these spiritual laws because there will always be contrasting polarities. Law of polarity is a natural law of spirit. And so there will always be positive and negative aspects. There will always be polarities and polarizing viewpoints. But when we can but it's kind of like the polarities are kind of like a pendulum. And if you ever see when you're swinging on the end of a pendulum, it goes down this really long arc. And if you're going to one extreme, it's going to come all the way back and go to the other extreme. And it's going to come all the way back and go to the other extreme, just like a pendulum does. Okay. But if you get in the middle, the swing still swings, but the swing is a lot less. And this is where we have to start realizing that the truth of all of these polarities is not going to be found in one side or the other. It's going to be found in the middle when we find a balance, when we find a harmony between the polarizations is when we're going to find the balance. That's where we're going to find the balance point. And that's where, yeah, we're going to have some swing back and forth, but it's not going to be as extreme. But we have to let go of extremism. I've been preaching against extremism for like 20 years. Kicked myself out of the studio. We got to have at least one technical error in the live stream. All right. So we got to reduce that pendulum swing and find the balance and the harmony in the center of these equations. One of the things that I've been saying all along on all of this stuff, and it doesn't matter which issues you're talking about. If it's, you know, conservatism versus liberalism, if you're talking about whatever extremes, it's those extremes. And the problem is that most of the people that you see and hear on the news are the people on the extremes, not the people in the middle, because the people in the middle don't make a whole lot of noise. They just go through their life and live their life and let the extremists have their way, have their views. And we just know that I'm going to live my life to the best I can and do the best I can for myself and my family and my friends and the people I care the most about, and then try to impact the world when and where I can. But I'm not going to live my life ignoring what's the most important to me because of these extremist ideologies. That's one of the things a lot of people are doing. A lot of people are getting caught up in their extremist ideologies and so far out there that they're losing touch with themselves, with their families, with their values, with the values they espouse to claim to be their true values. And it's just complicating things even more when we live life that way. So, one of the things that we have to do Mm. So one of the things that we have to do is we have to find a balance and the harmony. We're going to have to find the neutral ground in these extremist views. I don't believe extreme conservatism is going to be winning. I don't think extreme liberalism is going to win. I don't think extreme capitalism is going to win. We've seen the dark side of capitalism, which is why a lot of people hate capitalism, but there's a lot of advantages to capitalism too, like innovation. In a socialistic society, part of the dark side of socialism is it kills almost all innovation and growth. And so we have to find the balance and the harmony between the two. We have to find a way where people's at least basic needs are taken care of, but it doesn't kill creativity and it doesn't kill, the drive to achieve something, because the drive to be something, the drive to have value added to the world. See, a lot of problems I have with some of the anti-capitalism is they're anti-money. And money is an important part of our society. And money is an important part of our culture. And it's a part of who we are. And we might find something else, but money is just a tool that represents value. And I agree that there's some of these extremists in the capitalism that way overvalue themselves and they rip people off and they hurt people, but not all capitalistic. I mean, I run a business. I consider myself a capitalist, because if you own a business, you are a capitalist. Because socialists don't own buildings. You're not allowed to own a business in a socialistic society. You don't own anything. The government owns everything, and they take care of you. And it's disempowering, because that's a structure in which you disempower yourself, because you say, I am not capable of caring for myself. We have to give that power over to the government. And so part of this awakening that we're going through is we're going to have to heal the traumas, because part of the problem is there's so much trauma and anger and hatred and rage towards the extremists that we can't bring love to it. And we have to bring that love to it. And in love, we're going to find the middle ground, and we're going to be able to find the peace and the harmonious transition that will elevate this planet instead of destroying it. Because as long as the extremists are in control, we will destroy this planet. And that is still, we've had a shift in consciousness, but a lot of people think that we're out of the woods of what direction this planet's going to go, and it's not decided yet. We ain't got there yet. There's still a lot of decisions still making as to which direction this planet is going to go. And there's just this energy of the extremists. So the shift in consciousness is an elevation of our consciousness. And as we start understanding consciousness, then the first thing that we have to realize is, in order to have any chance at healing cultural trauma and systemic trauma, we have to heal our individual traumas first. We cannot heal the culture if we haven't done our own healing work inside ourselves. And the healing work inside ourselves is never done, but the more we do inside ourselves, the more we can help to aid the healing of the culture. But until we heal those aspects of ourselves, we can't do anything, because we're still stuck in that negative energy. We're still stuck in that painful energy of our own traumas. And we're bringing that into the argument. We're bringing that into the equation. And one of the things that I have found in my own life, and almost every spiritual teacher I've talked to has confirmed this, is that the things that trigger you into anger are signs of traumas that you have not healed yourself. And years ago, I had two of my teachers and elders who were arguing and fighting with each other. And this was at the time I was starting to learn about mediation and how to meet. So I wound up getting stuck in the middle of it. And I was sitting talking with one of them, and he asked me, he says, why can't he see this how this is and how this is so wrong? And I said, well, sometimes, and I don't even know where this came from. It just came through me. I don't even know where it came from, because I didn't know it. I learned something from this too, which happens all the time. But what came out was that sometimes you've healed something inside yourself, but the other people haven't healed that yet, and you see that, and that upsets you, because you see what they can't see, because you're on the other side of it. But the other side of that is, sometimes, and this is more of where I was going, the things that trigger you the most are the things that you haven't healed yourself, even if you think you have. And there's things that are triggering you emotionally into anger, into rage, into hatred. And I go through it. I have things that trigger me almost every day. You can just ask my wife. Okay. But I now recognize that when those things are triggering me, that's something I need to step back, take a look at, and look at what is it inside myself that is causing that to be triggered. Because that trigger, their behavior is not what's causing me to be triggered. It's how I'm perceiving their behavior. And so this is one of the things that we have to understand. What's triggering us is our perception of the world, not the world itself. What triggers you into uh, fear is your perception of the conditions you're in the world, not the actual conditions themselves. So this is something that's huge and that can completely transform your life once you start getting it. You start stepping back and start realizing that I'm being triggered into anger. I need to step back and look at that and say, okay, why is this triggering me? This is something I need to go and meditate on. This is something because one of the things I found, and I've been listening a lot to Kyle Cease, I'm in his Absolutely Everything group. And one of the things that he's been talking a lot about, and that I've learned a lot from him just in the last few weeks, is that if we just sit with that pain when it starts triggering, starts coming up, it's coming up because it's trying to leave. It's trying to heal and leave. Okay. So, and the same is true as we also have in that law of correspondence with the Hermetic principles, as within, so without. So the without, what we see in the world is a reflection of what's going on inside of ourselves. But at the same time, we can also take what how we heal inside of ourselves to reflect how we heal the culture. We can also work the other way, as within, so without. So what I do to heal inside me is what we need to do to heal the culture. So we have to realize that these things are coming up in the cultural consciousness so they can be healed and released, not to incite rage, not to incite anger, not to incite us into a war. If we bring it up and don't do the healing work, it will continue to cause more trauma, and it will continue to evolve, and it will continue to rupture and split. But if we bring it up and face it and bring love to it and allow it to heal and work on the healing work in those areas and in these divides between our countries and in our divides between the rich and the poor and the politics and the religions and all of it, it's all coming up so it can be healed. Okay, collectively and individually. So we do the healing work individually, and then we bring that healing work into the collective, and we continue the healing in the collective. And when we do this, that's how we heal the planet, and that's how we're going to shift this consciousness in a peaceful way instead of destroying the planet. And if we don't do it that way, we will destroy the planet. That's where we're headed. So that's our two options. We can either bring this up and allow it to heal, or we can continue bringing this stuff up, continue creating more and more anger, rage, hate, and divide, and we will destroy the planet. That's where we're headed. There's no middle ground on that one either. It's one or the other. It is black and white in that it is going to go one way or the other. There is no option in which we just stay the same. It's either going to heal or it's going to destroy. One of the two. And that choice has not yet been made. That's where we're at as a culture right now. We are in that darkness before the dawn, though. There's more energy, new energy coming in, too. And there may be more spiritual intervention that comes in and helps. I think that there's possibly another wave of awakening coming through as well. But as people go through the awakening, part of the awakening is choosing their path. Part of the awakening is raising that consciousness, is then we have to choose the path of light or dark. As enough people come into awakening and choose the path of love and path of the light, the less we have to fight the darkness. But we, even if we choose the path of love, one of the things books that I've studied is called the Law of One. And in the Law of One, it says in order to polarize in this awakening process as a negative entity, you have to live your life 95% in the negative. 95%. I mean, you have to be really, really bad. Even Hitler wasn't that bad, by the way. Um, but in order to polarize as a positive being, you don't have to be 95% good. In fact, you have to be 51% good. 51% in the positive energy to polarize as a positively oriented being. Now, this means that our energy frequency has to be above the 51% line in the frequency of energy. In order to do that, that means we have to go up the emotional scale and understand where those energy lines are in the emotional scale. That 50% energy line is around the emotion of contentment. So if we are below contentment in the emotional scale, let's see if I still have my emotional scale on here. I don't know if I still got it. Yep, there it is. So this is the emotional scale. I learned this from Abraham Hicks and I use it all the time. So we have right here is contentment. And that's about, yes, it's not the halfway point on the emotions, but we're talking about frequency of energy, not where it's at in the number of emotions. Okay, so everything above contentment is in the positive flow of energy. And as we go above below contentment, then we start getting really contentment, boredom, pessimism are kind of the neutral zone. Everything below pessimism is when we start getting into judgment. And when we get into judgment is when we get into the lower, slower energies. And as we get out of judgment, we get into the higher energies and the higher vibrations of energy. And as we start understanding that, then we start to realize that the flow is in being able to create a better life for ourselves. That flow allows us the opportunity to grow. So we have to get ourselves above contentment on that emotional scale in order to allow things to flow, in order to move up the consciousness of the planet. Financially, we have to do this in our financial systems, in how we give and receive money, you know. And this is part of why I fight so much for people to get out of debt, because if you are low in that emotional scale, if you're in debt, you're down here in the low energies in your relationship to money. As you get higher up in the emotional scale, you get out of debt and you're able to manifest money. But you cannot manifest from those low emotional states. Um, One of the big things that gets a lot of people in trouble is when we start looking at the emotional scale and we start looking at all of our relationships. We have to realize that we have this relationship in our family life, in our friendships, in our relationship to every different subject in our lives. We have a different vibration on that emotional scale. So the more we focus on healing each one of those aspects of our lives, our spiritual view, our view of consciousness, we have to adopt a consciousness that is higher up in the scale of consciousness in order to shift our own energies. Again, as the law of one taught, you have to reach that 51% in your overall energy field, which is vibrating. The vibrational scale vibrates up to, I think they calibrated it up to 1,000. So you have to be over 500 on the vibrational scale. And courage and contentment, which are right there, are the gateways into the higher energies. That is the gateway from the lower negative energies into the higher energies, is courage and contentment. So we have to get to that emotional state of courage and contentment. We have to be content with what we have instead of being greedy or being selfish. Greed is really just fear. One of the things that I've learned about greed is just an expression of fear. It's a fear of lack. People that are greedy, they have greed because greed is a reaction to the fear of lack. Greed is, I have to hoard. And greed isn't just about money either. My mom was a hoarder. She was broke, but she was greedy with everything. She had every she was a teacher and she had every paper her students ever turned in up until the day she passed away, because she was so afraid of not having it if she needed it. And that was her whole hoarding, was because she was afraid she would get rid of something and then need it. And so she never got rid of everything. She had boxes that were labeled trash just in case there was something in those trash bags that she might need someday. And that's greed. That's a form of greed. Hoarding is a form of greed. It's a fear of not having. It's a fear of not having it when you need it. And so, as we move out of that fear and we move into the higher vibrations of love and we get into the higher energies, we get to contentment, we get into courage, we get into hope, we get into the higher energy fields. And we have to do that in our attachment to stuff. And when we start getting into those higher energies, we realize that this stuff is nice to have. I love my stuff. I love having stuff, but I can walk away from every bit of it tomorrow and not have any problem with it because I'm not emotionally attached to it. I love my equipment, my studio equipment. I love my books. I love having stuff. I love the convenience of stuff because I've had a lot of time in my life where I lacked having that stuff. So I know what it feels like to have it. But at the same time, I could walk away from all of it and I could be perfectly content and happy and be okay, because my happiness and joy does not come from the stuff that I have. It comes from my response to the experiences that the world gives me. My joy, my happiness, my peace comes from my choices of how I choose to respond to the world, not from what the world does to me, not from what I have or don't have in the world. You can't control. In the Serenity Prayer, it says, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And you cannot change everything going on outside of you. The only thing, then it says, give me the courage. Again, that courage is that gateway into the higher emotions. Give me the courage to change the things I can change. What can you change? You can change what's going on inside of you. You can change what you focus on. You can change your state. You can change your thoughts. You can change your dialogue, the stories you tell yourself, the stories you tell other people. You can change your body language and your behavior. Those are the three things you can change. And those are the three keys to creating emotion. And those emotions are how we define the energy that we are aligned with in spirit. The spiritual energy we talk about, when we talk about spiritual energy, our emotions are our internal guidance system to tell us where our vibrational alignment is at the moment. That's all our emotions are. Hold on just a second. I gotta properties. Yeah, that's what it is. It's turning the camera off. There it is. Okay. Now it shouldn't turn off anymore. So that's one of the things that we've been learning as we deal with this. We have to go inside. We have to heal ourselves. We have to learn how to sit with these emotions, allow them to come up, just sit with them, be with them, allow ourselves to feel them. I'm not saying that we should not feel our negative emotions. We just need to recognize them for what they are. We need to recognize them as something that is trauma coming up that needs to be healed. And as we embrace them, then we can sit with it and we can love it and we can love ourselves in that space. And that's what it takes for the trauma to heal and to leave our bodies. And we can do this through meditation. I love to do it with my journals. We have our own journals now. What? All my buttons are all jacked up. We have our meditation journals, which are going to be linked to down in the description below. You can get those on Amazon. And in those journals, I have them sectioned out for writing about our feelings, writing about those energies that we're feeling, writing about our acceptance, and writing things ourselves through that healing process of our traumas. I designed it to kind of be a process for healing. And that's how I use it myself. That's why I created the journal. I created the journal for myself, um, because I didn't have a journal that walked through the process that I walk through in my journaling. If you just follow the steps in those journals, they actually walk you through the entire process for healing. And we just do that over and over and over and over again to continue our healing journey. As we go through, one of the biggest things that we can do is we continue looking for the life that we want. We have to know what our target life is. One of the big things I talk to a lot of people, and I'm like, okay, what do you want to do with your life? Why are you here? What are you born for? What are you trying to achieve and accomplish? And most people are like, yeah, I just want to survive, or yeah, I want to help people, which is really super vague. I mean, a lot of people just want to help people, okay? But how do you want to help people? What's an area of your life that you feel called to help people? It's something that's going to come from inside you. And most people are so out of tune with themselves, they don't listen to themselves. One of the biggest skills that we are doing a disservice by not teaching our children is we're not teaching our children to listen to themselves. And we're teaching our children, in fact, often in many cases, not to listen to themselves. And we should be doing the opposite. We should be teaching people, turn off the noise, turn off the TV, turn off the radio, turn off the constant input of noise. And I have to do it too, because I do it too. I have a constant input of noise, but every once in a while I turn it off and I sit in silence. This is why we meditate. I will sit in silence. And meditation is not like some, we have to do some certain position and we might do it right. No, meditation is really just sitting and listening to your body, listening to your mind, listening to your heart, listening to your body, listening to your emotions, because we don't slow down and listen to ourselves enough. If you listen to your mind, your heart, your body, your emotions, your spirit, listen to all four aspects of yourself and sit with it and listen to what it has to tell you. When your when your body is telling you something, pain is your body telling you there's something wrong. Now, what is wrong is usually a misalignment of energy. If we get the energy right and we can figure out what pain is causing that energy misalignment, we can actually heal ourselves, rather than, because we are all healers, by the way. You know, some people are like, oh, I'm a healer, and we do healing work. We're all healers. Every single person on this planet is a healer. There's not a single person here that can't, there's nobody here that can do anything that you can't do. The question is, are you willing to put in the practice to learn how to do it? Are you willing to learn how to do it? Not are you capable? Capability doesn't exist. Capability we all have, aplenty. There's very few things that make you incapable of doing some of this work. What the question is are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to go inside yourself? Are you willing to turn off the noise and listen to yourself? Most people aren't. And most people may never turn off the noise and listen to themselves. And we have to be okay with that. Again, accept the things we cannot change. And everything outside of ourselves, including every other person in the planet, no matter what our relationship to them is, that relationship to them doesn't matter. Any other person on this planet, you cannot change. I don't care if it's your child. I don't care if it's your parent. I don't care if it's your husband or your wife or your best friend. You cannot change anybody else. So many people are spending all their time, effort, and energy trying to change everybody else and not working on their own healing. We have to break free of that cycle. We have to break free of that cycle of trying to control other people and instead focus on our own healing. And then once we do our healing, then we bring that to other people. And as you raise your own vibration through doing your own healing work, because every time you heal, you raise your own energy, you raise your vibration, and that allows you to heal yourself more and more and more. And the healing work is never done because there's so much trauma from this lifetime and past lifetimes and other energies daily that interfere with us. And we can do some healing work, but then we're experiencing new things all the time that we are taking into ourselves, and sometimes it's not even ours to take into ourselves. So we have to bring that together, and we have to bring that into a sense of peace and harmony. And when we find that peace within ourselves, we do enough of the healing work that we get ourselves pretty much into a place of contentment and peace with ourselves. Then we can start bringing healing to others. Then we can start bringing our message to the world. When we get to that place of peace, contentment's a little bit above peace on this emotional scale. That's why I've always called my serenity journey the pathway to inner peace. It's because it's all about, can we get the vibration up to a place of peace? Because when you're at a place of peace, now you get your intuition. Now you can trust your inner guidance. When you're in a really low energy state, you have to realize intuition and inner guidance. Again, this is where we look at where's the scale? We look at the emotional scale. When we're in these lower emotional energies, our intuition will come to keep us at those lower energies. So if we're in jealousy, hatred, rage, anger, discouragement, the low energies of fear, then our intuition will come to keep us stuck in those emotional states. But if we get ourselves into a place of peace and contentment and joy and happiness and unconditional love, the more we get into those higher energy states and stay there, our intuition will come to teach us how to keep us there and to help us continue that growth and how to better serve others and bringing others up into that level. The other thing is, as you raise your vibration goes out and affects other people. So if you're in a low vibrational state and your vibration is going out, then it is affecting everyone around you. If you are in a low negative energy state, it is going to bring other people around you who are not yet healed themselves down with you. Now, once you're healed, once you've done that healing work and you're stable in that higher vibrational state, which I'm not there all the time. I'm getting better at maintaining that higher vibrational state even under pressure and when the world is not going according to my direction and my plans. But it's something that we have to practice. And so by practicing it more and more and more, we can maintain that higher vibrational state without coming down when we're around other people that are in a lower vibrational state, because we're going to deal with people that are in a lower vibrational state all the time. But when we get stable in that higher vibrational state, then we can bring other people up with us. But if we're not stable in that higher vibrational state yet ourselves, which again takes time, takes practice, you're not going to get it right the first time. You're not supposed to. You're not doing anything wrong if you don't get it right the first time. In fact, I have never met anybody that got it right the first time. I know people that have been doing this for 60 or 70 years that still haven't got it right yet. And they still get into the lower emotional states. And in some subjects, they've healed. And in some subjects, they can stay above that high energy state. But when they get on other subjects, they get into those lower energies. And that's one of the things we have to learn how to recognize. These are the subjects that keep me in a high energy state. And these are the subjects that keep me in a low energy state. And we know we can't just totally avoid some of those subjects either. Some of those subjects might be your job. Some of those subjects might be your relationship to money, which means you have to either raise your energy or, work on that healing work in that aspect of your life. It might be in your marriage or in your relationship that puts you in that low emotional state. And if so, then that's an energy that you have to work on inside yourself to bring yourself up. And if you're in those low energy states, I wouldn't be making major decisions in those areas of your life without at least doing some work to do some of that healing work to get your energy up in that subject. Because the higher you can get your energy up, the better decisions you're going to make. And so I've been actively working on this every day for the last 2 years. I've been working on it up and on for 30 years. And I'm not perfect at it, but I've been working on it almost every day for the last about 2.5, 3 years, since just before the pandemic started. And so, this is something that's very intentional. This is part of why I called my money work that we're doing is called intentional prosperity. And the reason why is because it's about being intentional about our thoughts, about our story, about our behavior, and about maintaining and managing our energy around the subject of money. And as we become intentional about our subject of money, we can raise our vibration by being intentional in that subject. If you become intentional about your marriage, about your relationships with your kids, if you start becoming intentional about the energy that you bring to it, instead of blame, instead of blaming those others and saying, I'm going to own responsibility for the energy I bring to this relationship, instead of blaming anybody else for the energy I'm bringing. Now, that doesn't mean we don't hold others accountable for their behavior. There's a difference between holding others accountable for their actions and blaming. The energy is different. There's a difference between accountability and blame. Blame is an energy that is very low, but accountability is, we do have to a degree, hold people accountable for their actions. People need to be held accountable and responsible. I think one of the big problems that I've seen with a lot of people in our cultures is a lot of people who've never once had to take accountability for their actions. There's a lot of people in my own family that have never taken accountability for their actions. They continue to deny responsibility for their actions. And that is something that is hurting a lot of people. That's something that's causing a lot of conflict with people. I know a lot of kids today. I'm not going to name anybody names, but I know a lot of kids that are, younger generation people that have never had to be responsible for themselves or other people. And I get it. I spent a lot of my time being very irresponsible. So I'm not blaming them. They're being who they are and they're being who they were raised to be. But at the same time, they need accountability. When I worked in the prison, I used to have people come in all the time that thought that they should get rewarded just for showing up, the same as somebody who come in and did the absolute best job on the unit. And they didn't understand that, yes, I appreciate you showing up for work, but you're not going to be rewarded the same as somebody who's busted their ass for the last 16 hours. For the last 8 days, they've shown up every single day and worked overtime every single day and gone above and beyond the call of duty to do their job and to cover other people's job when those people didn't show up. There's a difference. As a supervisor, there's a difference in how I treated those people. And I was in the wrong for doing that because, oh, well, you should just appreciate the fact I show up. I do appreciate the fact that you show up, but that doesn't mean I don't hold you accountable for doing your job when you're here. That doesn't mean you get a pass on doing your job. You don't just show up and get paid just for showing up. You get paid for doing the work that you're here to do. The point of showing up is to do the work that you're here to do. And I had people in the prison that never got that, never understood that. So, I understand the employee side because I've been in the minimum wage jobs. I've been in poverty most of my life. I've worked in low end jobs, but I've also been the manager. I've been the supervisor that's had to deal with people that wanted to show up and not do any work and get compensated the same as people who came in and busted their ass. And those were the first ones to complain when somebody else got promoted ahead of them. You know how I got promoted working in the prison? It wasn't because I was the best officer. It was because I showed up and I busted my butt every single day. And for 2 years, I showed up every single day. And I had people that when I went up for my first supervisor's position as a sergeant, I had people who had been there twice or three or five times longer than me. And I got promoted over them because of my work ethic, not because I was the best officer on the unit, not because of my knowledge. I had the knowledge that I needed. I qualified for the position, but I barely qualified for that promotion. And I got promoted over other people because of my work ethic, because I showed up on my days off, because they had a time, they knew that if they needed me, I would be there. Because I went 45 days without a day off at one point. They forced me to take days off because I had worked over 45 days straight without a day off. Because every time I had a day off, they called me in because they were shorthanded all the time. And there was other people that had been there longer than me that were upset that I got promoted over them because they thought they were entitled to it because of their seniority. You're not entitled to it. You have to earn it. And there's too many people that don't get that. They think that they're entitled to having something just because they want it or because their seniority or whatever excuse they have for it. And the fact is, you're not entitled to anything. We've got to get over the sense of entitlement. Now, there's a difference, and I've talked about this on other strengths. There's a difference between deserving something better and being entitled to something better. Do I think everybody deserves a livable wage? Yes. Do I believe everybody deserves a higher standard of living? Yes. Do I believe you're entitled to it? No. I've had times where I didn't make a living wage. I've had to live on government welfare programs. I've had times where I had to sleep on somebody else's couch because I didn't have the money to put a roof over my own head. So I get it. I understand. And I had times where I was doing that and still working 80 hours a week. So it wasn't like I wasn't working and I was having a bum on somebody else's couch. I was working 80 hours a week and I still wasn't making enough money to put a roof over my own head. So I understand the poverty. I lived in that poverty mindset, but 90% of the reason why those people are still in poverty is not because everybody's out to get them. It's because they believe everybody's out to get them. And it's because of what they do. One of the first things that I had to do in order to start turning my life around when I was in that state was I had to own responsibility for the condition that I was in. Period. 100%. Nobody else to blame. It's my damn fault. It's not because of the government. It's not because of the employer. It's not because of everybody else. It's because of choices I made. I made choices that put myself in that position every single time. And until I started owning that, I couldn't change my life. As soon as I started owning it, it's one of the first steps. And that's just the first step, by the way. It ain't the end. You can't just do that and then all of a sudden everything's going to work out, la, la, la. No, that's just the first step. And then you got a lot of work to do because now you have to heal the trauma. You have to start making better decisions. You have to learn. You have to educate yourself. And then you have to be willing to do things differently. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, you have to work on your internal self. Mentally, educate. Emotionally, heal the traumas from the past, heal the wounds, heal all that stuff, and allow that stuff to go. Physically, you got to get off your butt and do the work. I see people talking about manifestation. Well, what did you do? Well, I meditated and I prayed. I prayed for healing and it didn't come. Did you go see the doctor? No. Well, sometimes God works through other people to help you, but you've got to do your part. You've got to get up and go. Every single thing that's ever come into my life through manifestation, it may not have come in a direct way that I understood it first. It may have been a long time before I realized, hey, I did this. I was manifesting this, and then it showed up in this weird way. But every single thing that's manifested in my life, I had to take some kind of action to bring it about. Now, what we do though is we do the manifestation work. Align the internal energy. We heal the emotional stuff. We align our internal energies, and then we get an intuition that leads us into the manifestation. That intuition is an inspired action. So we still take action, and we still need strategy, and we still need to get out and do stuff. But that stuff is going to come from a place of inspiration, not from the emotional state of desperation. Because when you're in the emotional state of desperation, which is low on the emotional scale, it's near that bottom of that scale. Desperation is down there near fear and discouragement. Desperation is right down here. Fear, grief, despair, powerlessness. Desperation is right down there. Okay. So we cannot be in desperation. We need to be in a higher energy. We need to be inspired. We need to move out of desperation and into inspiration in order to make the shift. And that's one of the shifts that I'm trying to help people make, is how to move from that desperation to inspiration. And that emotional scale, by the way, is kind of the key. The emotional scale is the key to making the shift. Because see, what a lot of people want to do is we're down here in jealousy, insecurity, guilt, unworthiness. And we're trying to get all the way up here to joy and appreciation and love and freedom and passion and peace. You're not going to skip from the bottom to the top. And see, what a lot of people get upset about is, we've been down here. I've been down here. Despair, powerlessness, grief, fear, uncertainty, depression goes right there with despair and powerlessness. Security, insecurity, and guilt, just one step up. If we could get from depression just to guilt and unworthiness, and then get from there up to jealousy, and then get up to hatred and rage, and then revenge and anger, and then get up into discouragement, you just step your way up the ladder instead of trying to skip from the bottom to the top. And you can actually, within a few moments, you can go through these. You don't have to act on them. You just have to feel them, allow yourself to feel them, and then say, okay, what can I do to move up from there? And just continue saying, what can I do to keep moving up? And you can move from powerlessness all the way up into contentment and hopefulness and positive expectation and peace. Hopefulness and peace, by the way. Peace is right here at hopefulness. So we have hopefulness, which is like fourth one from the bottom in the purple. And hopefulness is where we find peace. When we get to contentment, hopefulness, and peace, that is my end goal. Because if you can get yourself to hopefulness and peace, inner peace, then you can change, and you can change the world, and you can help. When you're at that level, then you're at a level where you can start helping and serving other people. That's where you've got to get to before you can help heal the culture. That's where we've got to get to if we want to heal the systemic problems that are going on in the world. I don't want to say that we need to ignore the systemic problems. I'm saying we need to heal our own emotions first, get ourselves into peace. And I'm not there. I'm there on some subjects, and I can get myself into that place of peace with intention, and I do it every day. I spend some time, and I tell you, when I first started the pathway to peace and I started this journey and started understanding this emotional scale, I might get into that place of peace for like 2 or 3 minutes a day when I first started. But once I knew what it felt like, I knew how to get back there. And now I can get myself back there quicker and longer and easier because I've done it every single day. I make it an intention. One of my daily intentions is to spend time in peace. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm pushing my boundaries. So, like, maybe right now I can go through maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, and they don't have to be consecutive either, but 4 or 5 hours a day being at peace, at least at that level of peace for at least 4 or 5 hours out of the day. Now, it doesn't have to be consecutive. I might be in it, and then somebody interrupts my peace, and then I get myself back into it. And so now my next goal is going to get to, say, 5.5 hours. So it's pushing my comfort zone. It's pushing beyond what I know I can do. But it's not stretching me to say, oh, I'm going to do it the whole day, or I'm going to do it the whole week. No, I'm just saying, let's just try to, my goal for tomorrow is to be like 5.5 hours. And it might take me a few months to get to the point where I'm able to do that. But as we set those daily intentions, we can set an intention that pushes our boundaries without stretching so far out of our boundaries that we believe it's impossible. That's one of the keys to growth. You don't want to stay in your comfort zone. As long as you're in your comfort zone, you can't grow. You have to step out of your comfort zone in order to grow. But if you can step out of that comfort zone, you can grow. And you just push it just a little bit outside that comfort zone tomorrow, and then get used to it. What happens is, okay, you have, this is like my comfort zone. Let's say right here is my comfort zone. Okay. And so I'm going to set a goal to go here tomorrow. Okay. Oh, here, let's move to where I'm more in the screen. There you go. Okay. So here's my comfort zone. I'm going to set a goal to go to here tomorrow. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, that's going to be the same goal I'm going to have for probably the next several weeks. And within that several weeks, I'll get more and more comfortable with being able to do that. And the more I do it, the more I'm going to get comfortable at being able to do it. And then I'm going to get to a point where that now becomes my new comfort zone. So my next goal is going to be to go here. Again, as we do that, we're going to set a new goal. As we achieve a goal, that doesn't mean it's the end of the road. It just means we set a new goal and we push our comfort zone further. And you can do this in every area of your life. You can do this in your relationships. You can do this in your relationships with your kids. You can do this in your relationship with money. You can do this in your relationship with your job. You can do this in every aspect of your life. You can do this in your political beliefs, in your spiritual beliefs, in every belief you have. And when I talk to people, one of the first things that I ask when we start really diving into, a decision or something that people have to make, one of the things that we always look at is, how does that make you feel? What emotion does that stir in you to have that decision? Okay, so let's look at the options. How does this option make you feel? And how does this option make you feel? One may not be great and the other one's bad. Those are the easy decisions to make. But sometimes it may be that this one's uncomfortable, but this one pisses me off. Well, uncomfortable feels better than pissed off. So I'm going to go with the one that makes me feel uncomfortable because that's a higher emotional energy. Your emotions are telling you what decisions to make. Your emotions can always lead you to the right decision that will lead you up, but we have to learn to listen to them. And we have to learn how to tell where they're at vibrationally. Memorizing that emotional scale will really help with that. Because as you memorize that emotional scale, you can learn, okay, this is what I'm feeling. I know this is where it sits on the scale, and I know I'm feeling this over here, and this sits higher on the scale. It's not where I want to be, but it's higher up on the scale than that other decision makes me feel. So that's the decision I'm going to go with. And other people may not like that decision because they want me to do this decision, which is part of what's triggering me to be pissed off because I feel bad about that decision. I know it's the wrong decision for me to make, and everybody's pushing me to make that decision, and that pisses me off even more. So I've got to rein that in because that's triggering me. And that's another area then that I've got to work on. But that's just even more. Hey, the more I'm getting triggered over that decision, the more I know that's the wrong decision for me to make. That's just actually setting me even more firm in my resolution that, no, that's not what I need to do because that's triggering me, because my emotions are telling me that that's the wrong decision, that this is the right decision for me. It may not be perfect, but it's a better decision than that one. And I've had a lot of decisions like that in my life. I've had a lot of decisions that I have two choices that neither one of them's good. Neither one of them makes me happy. A lot of people are like, oh, we just want to be happy. Life ain't about always being happy. I have a disabled daughter. You think the decisions I have to make with her make me happy? No. But I take the better feeling decision, which is thinking about her long term care needs. You know, I don't like having to jab her in her private areas with a tube so that she can pee, but I have to. I don't enjoy it. I don't get any pleasure from it. It's not joy and abundance and happiness, but it feels better than listening to her scream because her bladder's full and she can't pee and possibly go into the hospital. What's the cost of not doing that is worse than the cost of doing it. But it doesn't make me happy. I do a lot of things every day that don't make me happy, but a lot of people get stuck in indecision because they don't have an option that makes them happy. A lot of people get stuck in not making a decision because so we have to learn that emotional scale and learn, hey, these are the two options I have. This one feels better than that one, so that's the one we're going to go with. And then we stick with that. We don't let anybody talk us out of. Once you make a decision, I don't care who they are or who they think they are or what kind of influence they think they should have in your decision making process. Once you make a decision, you don't let anybody talk you out of it. Once you make that decision, now, if you're still trying to decide, if you're still feeling your way through, you might listen to the influence of others, but it's still your decision. You can listen to what other people say. I've made a lot of decisions in my business because I listen to other people. And then guess what? I go back to listening to myself, and myself says, no, you need to go in this way. This is out of alignment with the money content that I'm doing. And I get that. But I felt this need to come and talk about this today. I felt this is something that's been like burning inside of me that I needed to have this discussion today. So I don't know who it's for. I don't know if anybody's going to watch it. I don't care because I'm being guided to do it. That's one of the things I found as a content creator, as a person. When I feel the need to do something, I may not see the direct results in it. It may not get a lot of views. It may not get a lot of stuff. It may turn into something phenomenal. We'll see how it turns out. I didn't even have a plan for today. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I knew what I was going to talk about. I knew we were going to talk about the shift in consciousness and how to go through, but I had no idea what the strategy was going to. I had no idea. I didn't sit here and plan this stream out. I just allowed it to come through me and allowed whatever came up inside of me to come. So I hope this has been enlightening and insightful and helpful. I hope that you found some value in this. If so, make sure you give us the thumbs up button. And if you're new here, make sure you click subscribe. If you have any questions about the shifting consciousness, energy work, financial planning, all this fun stuff that we talk about here on our channel, leave us a comment down below, and that's where we come up with a lot of our content ideas is from those comments and questions. So feel free to leave us a comment or leave us a question below. We've been on for over an hour and there's nobody listening. No, I'm fine. I had a couple of people pop by. So those of you that did stop by, if you come back and finish on the replay, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're watching this on the replay, you also might want to check out this video right here where we talk about manifestation work and how to do it properly and some of the big mistakes that you need to avoid. We'll see you in the next video. Y'all have a fantastic day. Till next time.